because we are not investing in it. So with us now, every year we assure the people of West Coast of development because we want to invest. And that investment has to be recurrent. And we can only do that if people help us in paying their rates, licenses, and then daily market dues, because that's what the councils depend on in order to register development in the region. So someone mentioned about coastal roads. Yes. So coastal road is a very important market for us in West Coast. It's our second busiest market in the region. So the challenge we have in coastal road is space. You know, the whole of that area was supposed to be a market area. At least that's what the alcalo of that area told us. That was supposed to be a market. And then that land was a reserve land. It was given to Britanga Area Council. But unscrupulous people who were in the council before decided to sell the land privately. A public land that is reserved for public, they decided to sell it to people. And that now meant that the space that should have been created for the market has now been, are now private owned. And what happened is the place is so busy and it's such a viable place for, and vibrant place for market. It attracts so many people to come and sell there. And because so many people want to sell there, there is no space. That is a big challenge for us. Yeah. So one of the things we are doing, we are in touch with the youth, because just behind the market there's a football field there. It's a big football field. We are in touch with the youth there. We have reached an agreement with them. We're trying to now find a land, another land as an alternative land where we will move their field to that one and add or turn that field into a market so we can move everybody that is occupying public space or occupying roads to go there and then have a space. This is what we are now looking for. And hopefully we've identified somewhere we need to engage the person, because we have a reserve land at Paradise that we can try to switch and see if that person will be interested in moving there, so we can have that big space, which is a football field, to become a market. That would at least ease this issue of people occupying the roadside. Because when we have that big space, then the market will shift to that area and it will still be within the coastal road area. So that's one of the things we are working on. And then pray for us so that we can succeed in getting the land where the football field will be moved and all the market vendors will be able to have enough space there. Because that place is very, very important to us. It's second busiest in West Coast region. Brikama is the busiest, and that one is second busiest at the moment. So, what is the other one? Dustbins needs to pay. So we are charging with the dustbins. We are charging. We charge people whenever we collect. We charge people. We charge them for a bag of rice, 50 kg bag of rice full of waste. We charge. We're charging $15 now. We charge $20. So $20 is per bag. And then if it is a bin of, let's say, 120 liters, we charge $30. If it is 240 liters, because these are the only two sizes we have for households, we charge for that one about $50 for that one. So we are charging with that. The only problem is we don't have the vehicles to go around. So we told people, and then we promised them. We started collecting on certain days, and everybody was expecting, and they all were expecting that this would be continuous, and people would come and bring their waste on those days, get their monies ready, but we have no vehicle to collect. That is how terrible the situation is. Because remember when we came to BAC, we found that it was 10 million in debt, and then all its vehicles were grounded. And then they also have small vehicles. BAC, the vehicles, we call them gelegeles. They're very small. When you take them to collect waste on a street, they will collect one side of the street and they have to go and dump, and then the other side is yet to be collected. That's how small they are. Whereas if you have the big ones that KMZ is having, you can collect the whole of that area, and you still wouldn't be able to fill these things. See, so that is a big challenge we are facing. But hopefully, once we get our our vehicles, that also, that would be mitigated. So the next one is voting in the diaspora. So, see, the thing I understand about the lack of voting in the diaspora is few things. I managed to engage some senior members of the IEC as to why this is not happening. Even though there was a Supreme Court ruling, it is in the laws, it is in the constitution, that diaspora should, every Gambian should be able to vote, regardless of where we are. The problem that they were able to explain to me, and I'm going to explain it to you, and then see whether you people would think it is reasonable or not. But this is what he told me. He said, look, we at IEC want the diaspora to vote. The challenge we have is, it's our electoral system. You know, in Gambia, we vote in a box. And that box has to have the party color and then the poster of the candidate. And that box is unique to that particular party. So we don't share the box. Each party has its own box. So say for example you have 10 candidates, presidential aspirants in the next election, 2026. So 10 candidates vying for the position of president in the country. What will happen is, it would mean every voting station should have 10 ballot boxes. So they're telling me now, just calculate it. If you're going to have one ballot station in Finland, you're going to have one in Sweden, one in Norway, one in Denmark, one in, let's say, Germany, or 2 or 3 in Germany. Oh, and then you're going to have it in Italy, Spain, you're going to have it in France, UK, you're going to have it in maybe in multiple states in America. He said, add that together and multiply it by 10. How many are you going to get? He said, you might end up getting 600 ballot boxes. And then if we have to put all of that in the plane, and then everywhere we get to, we drop 2, and then go to the auto and then drop 10 and drop 10. He said, it's a Herculean task for us, and we don't have the budget. He said, this is our #1 problem. And #2, the way our electoral laws are framed is that if you vote in that box, and then it is counted, once it is counted, the tokens, the marble tokens are then reinserted back into those boxes, and the boxes have to be sealed, and they have to then be collected and returned. They cannot be tampered with, because anybody who challenges or petition that election result, the boxes have to be taken to court, sealed and untampered. I don't know whether you get it. So that means even when once you finish your voting here, they have to also come with the same plane or another plane and start collecting the 2 drums everywhere and going with it. So it's too Herculean for them. And they just think about it. In my election in West Coast, when we were having my election there, in the local authority election there, we had 9 candidates. And then they have 2,000 polling stations in West Coast. So that means they needed to do 18,000 drums or ballot boxes. And our ballot boxes are drums. And you know, our ballot boxes, you cannot design it here because it also has its own unique features. It has a bell. If you're used to voting in Gambia, if they don't hear the bell, they will call you, hey, Mr. Dabo, you better go to that polling station. There is something fishy going there. I voted there, but I couldn't hear the bell. You know, so it also has to have that bell. So when they put the token in there, they hear the bell. That's when they know that, oh, my token is registered. So that means they have to design it as a drum, bring it here. They cannot just rely on other things. So compare that to Senegal. See, Senegal, it is not marbles, it is pictures. So you have one box here. They put it in the center for everyone to see, and they put a corner there. You come, you have 10 or 15 candidates. You take all of their pictures. Once you take all of their pictures, you go to the corner, and then you know the picture you want to vote for. or the candidate you want to vote for, and you put it in an envelope. You come outside, the box is outside, you dump it there. And that box doesn't have no unique feature apart from an entry point at the top. But apart from that, it doesn't have any bell or anything of that sort, or any collar or this and that. It doesn't. So that means you can even get a bucket from any of your local stores here and put it here and then vote on it.
But sorry, I just want to interrupt.
Yeah. So you
Okay,
you can put that box there, and then insert your pictures, and everybody can vote. And IEC doesn't need to come with a plane full of drums. You see what I mean? Everybody can buy that box anywhere, and then we put it to count vote there. Because when it finishes, the counting will be done in front of everybody, so it will be transparent. But this is the challenge that they said they are facing. So that's why I said I'm going to explain it to you, and then you will see whether it is reasonable or not. Because there is a lot of places they have to go to, and if they have to get all the drums, it will be very, very good. So the next thing they said, because last time that was the reason why they wanted the ballot system to change from marble to paper. But you know, when they raised that up, people in the Gambia were like, no, that's a no-go area. Because they now want to cheat us. That's what people say. People say they want to cheat us. So the question then becomes, until you change the law, which says that people in the Gambia can vote with marble and people in the diaspora can vote with a different voting system, until you're able to change that in our laws, it'll be very, very difficult for this diaspora voting to become a reality. This is the big challenge. So we as Gambians have to have this discussion and then be able to convince those that are also in the Gambia, because in the Gambia, the mindset is this is how we found our fathers voting. And this is how we are also going to vote. No one is going to change that. Because I remember last time when they said, even my mom was saying, these people want to cheat. Because the way we always vote, they now want to change that. How are we going to know that this is the picture of the candidate we are going to vote for? But when you enter into the room, you see the picture on the yellow box. Although you see the yellow there, but you also see the picture there. But this is, and we've done this picture voting because when there was a Congress in 2016 to choose Adam Barrow, they went with the picture voting. That's what the delegates used to vote. So, but these are some of the things that we, as Gambians, when we get into Gambia, we also need to educate the people about, so that we start talking about this because this is very important. You know, it's very important. But what Pamudu would say, Mbanya Linyolo and other people in the local area, they find that even a lot more sophisticated. They are used to collect the marble, put your finger in the ink, go and put it in the box, and you listen to the bell. If the bell sounds, then you know that that vote is in. So if you tell them to put it in an envelope and then put it there, then they find that whole thing to be a bit more complicated for them, you know. So that is that one. And then what is the other one? The people are not very happy with the UDP, the videos. Okay, so I think, yes, you're right, we are all not happy about it. But the problem is controlling media or social media is very difficult. You know, it's very, very difficult. I get people telling me, oh, these so-and-so people are criticizing you. I said, they're not criticizing me, they're criticizing the chair I occupy or the title I carry. If I don't want them to criticize, I will leave it. But as long as I am happy to be in it, let them criticize. See what I mean? It comes with the job. You cannot have, you cannot come to Finland and they lay such a nice table for you and give you such a good lunch simply because you are the chairman of BAC, and when people throw stones at you, you are saying, don't throw stone at me. It's not possible, isn't it? That's what Adam Barrow doesn't understand. You know, you cannot be a president of the country and you say people cannot criticize you. It comes with the job. If you don't want it, just give it back to them and say, I don't want this job, you have it. I'll go sit in my corner with my family and enjoy our privacy. And nobody will bother you. because they have no business with you. But if you occupy their position and carry their title, you have to expect that. And that's normal. So me, when I see people criticizing, I want to read and understand. And when they said something, I said, yeah, he has a point. Because he's not happy because we are not doing this. But unfortunately, we cannot do it. We are also having our own constraint. But yes, he is entitled to being unhappy because he deserves that one. And unfortunately, we are not able to provide it. And we should do everything to provide it. So it motivates you to want to do a lot more. And you have to do a lot more. You know, that's why sometimes I don't like sitting in the office. I want to be in the field to make sure we get it done. Because our people deserve that. Needs to be done, you know. Unfortunately, many people occupying public offices in Gambia don't understand that they are serving the people. They think that they are there to serve themselves. And that's why you hear the saying, but that is not supposed to be the case. So the next one is land disputes. So yes, so you know, when it comes to land registration, the process is complicated in Gambia. And this all boils down to how our system is. You know, Gambia, what we inherited since from the colonial era, those are what we still maintain. Britain was our colonist. Britain has even abandoned the old laws that they were using in the colonial era, and they have new laws that they're now applying. But with us, for some reason, we are stuck in the past. So, when Britain was colonizing us, land registrations and everything are centralized at the central government. Central government still maintain that. Britain doesn't do that anymore. You have town planning councils. When you go to any town councils, you will have their own planning department. They will be responsible for all the plans. And they are also responsible for land registrations and the land demarcations. We wish we have that at BAC, but unfortunately, it's the physical planning. So what happens is when people come to register at BAC, we have to look at certain few things. So first one is whether you have the Alcalo certificate. You see? And this is where all the problems are emanating from. Because the Alcalos will give you a land transfer today, and they'll give the same land to the other person. They'll give the same land, transfer the same land to another person. And it is hard at our end to know what is exactly happening because we don't have the cadastral map. So we don't have the map of all the lands that are in our region. We depend on physical planning that have the national cadastral map. So the other thing we look for after the Alcalo one, we look for whether you have the physical planning certificate of occupancy, and then whether you also have the physical planning cadastral map with the land delineation there, and then the stamp of the CFO. We look for all of those. Once all of those are present, the council give you the BAC registration document. So the problems then becomes if physical planning become unscrupulous and the Alcalos become unscrupulous, and at most of the time this is what would happen. The Alcalos would give you, would do duplicate registrations. It would come to physical planning, who are just looking at the map, and then these maps are not digitalized. So they would just print it out, and then they wouldn't go back to check on the records. I don't know whether any of you have even been to the physical planning offices. If you ask for even a map, it will take them ages to search.
I have been there just last week.
Exactly.
I was at the office then.
So you see how they operate.
Yes.
They go through the files.
Yes.
So you have to have a system where if you come with the coordinates, I put it in the computer said, this is someone else's land. If you don't have that, but you have papers to look for, and most of the time they're lazy to look for these papers.
I even have to go to the Cardiff.
Exactly.
Also, they give me another document.
So that's where you have the family dispute case.
No, it's not family dispute. It's an inheritance.
Okay, so inheritance, you have to get the Cardiff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cardiff.
So once you get all of those, that's when the councils do the registration. So the problem we have is we want the government to decentralize planning, to town planning and everything, should be decentralized. We don't need physical planning to be running all of these things. Give West Coast Brikama Area Council total that autonomy to demarcate the land. But you can see why they don't want to give land, because land now is exactly, it's a source of income, it's a lot of things. Yeah. And it's precious. Land is very precious. And we have it in abundance in West Coast. Some land say in Burfoot and everything, so they are of the view that you give it to council, they will give it probably all to their UDP people. You see what I mean? Because the way Barrow MPP government thinks, they just think everything along political lines. And that is quite unfortunate. So I think that is the last one. And then what difference can we make? So the difference we want to make, at the moment, the challenge we have is we have also assigned our own people to physical planning. And then what we are also doing through this assessment, we want to also have geolocation of all these lands, and then hopefully to also have council registration numbers for each of the compounds. So we are going to go into street naming and a whole lot of things. All of this will help us in terms of identifying these lands. And then we are also building up of our own data. So when physical planning gives us a land to sign, we can also cross-check on our own data to see whether that land is not registered or is not, someone else hadn't paid some money for it in the past. So we can cross-check that, and if that happens, then we can say, we can refer it back to them and say, this one is, there's a duplication on it on our system. You have to go and check it properly to make sure before you issue this certificate of occupancy to this person. So that is that one. I think now I can come in Mandinka now and then try to summarize it very short. And unless someone else has a question, and if everyone is happy with the explanation, we can leave it there. But if not, I can go. Everybody is happy.
The question I have, last year I paid my rent.
Yeah.
Income. Got the certificate.
Yes.
After 2 months, they said I didn't pay my rent.
Yes. But
So
thank God you had your receipt.
After they apologized.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that?
So we are,
What are you doing?
so that is going to be addressed through this assessment now. So once the assessment is done, we have the full data. So the other thing what we want to do is we want to issue every household with a card, with your council tax card or council city council card. So that card now, in the future, there will be a portal somewhere on our system where you can enter there, and then you will be able to see whether it is registered that you have paid or you have not paid. And then you'll be able to track it down. Because technology is where we are heading to. It helps people not to be cheated. It fights and reduces corruption, and then it eliminates all these duplicate charging and all other things in the region. So that would help us a lot. Indeed.
How soon will that be?
I have one question.
So that should be before the end of next year, I would say. Not this year, but before the end of, because this year we are currently doing the assessment of everything. That, and then once we assess everything, we are entering it into our data. Yeah. So the database now, by the end of the year, would be able to tell us, say for example, Sukuta, let's say Sukuta Nema or Sukuta Sanchaba, how many compounds are there and how many business shops are there. You see what I mean? So once we get that basic data, the next step is to go there and geolocate these particular properties. So each property you geolocate it on the Google map. So you can be able to search the geolocation of it and you are able to find it. It helps, and then it gives the dimension of the compound. So at the moment, the problem we have is if we want to go to that level of detailed assessment, we will need a lot of funding for it, and we don't have the funding. So we went for the cheapest one, and that gives us the basic assessment. And it also values the properties to their proportionate rate level. So because on the West Coast, if your property's value is more than 500, you're supposed to be paying $2,000 a year, not 1,000, not 150. Yeah. So this is what is happening. So this assessment will also help us to know how much money we are supposed to be expecting to get next year. And if we know that, then that helps us with regards to our budgeting. So we want to know, like, for example, this year we gave out 14 million towards. Next year we want to give 28 million, or we want to give 56 million. It will all depend on the data and the information we get. Because previously what was happening is we were dependent on the collectors. The collector will come to this area and they will say, there is only 5 compounds there. In fact, at one point they said C4 was having only 10 businesses. And the councillor for C4 came back, he said, no, that is not possible. I am from C4. And we have more than 10 businesses in C4. Gunjur, they have only 18 businesses in Gunjur. And then you go to Gunjur, you look at all those shops and you're like, how is that even possible?
Even one street is more than 20.
But you know, the collectors would come with only 16 businesses. And they will say, I have exhausted my zone. And then the rest of the money, they will collect it and go with it at home. That was the big problem we were facing. But now, if we are able to assess all the data, you see, it is hard for anyone to cheat us now, because we know how many compounds we have in this area. So if you come with only the value of 5, we will say, no, you still missed 20. Go back and collect 20. You see. So, but that was the problems we inherited. And we inherited with so many challenges. And that's why we've been left behind on many fronts, you know. And then we have so many challenges at West Coast. Because remember, we try to divide or invest our revenue in 3 ways. So one is for the recurrence. That is the administrative cost of running the council. The second is development. And third is on the welfare. We're supposed to have a welfare system where we pay people who cannot afford to get anything. And that was supposed to come from our revenue. But at the moment, we cannot. So, but what we are doing this year, our welfare contribution went towards paying school fees for some of the students that are from poorer backgrounds or who are struggling to meet the cost of their education. We help those people. We paid for 300 students. We also helped a lot of people that are suffering and they needed medical treatment but cannot afford to pay for that treatment. So what we do in those instances, we don't give them the money because we realize that, you know, corruption has been so pervasive in our country that even sick people are corrupt to themselves. You can give them money. They will tell you, I need 6,000 to buy the medicine and everything. You give them 6,000. They go in and they see something nice, maybe a mobile phone. They said, oh, let me pay 3,000 from there. And they will buy the 3,000 mobile phone for 3,000. The next minute, before you realize, they're admitted at the hospital because they're buying, or they will go and buy the cheapest medicine they can get. You know, they will go to these pharmacies. If they said this is expensive, they said, okay, they go to the other one, which are less in quality. And that's a big challenge. So what we do for medical treatment, we will ask you to provide us with the medical, the invoice from the hospital, and then we go to the hospital and pay it and get our receipt from the hospital. The same thing we are doing with schools. We don't give it to the students, but we take their names, they apply first, and if they are approved, we then take their names and we go to the school, we pay it at the school. And this year when we've been to some of the institutions, they're like, are you from BAC? We said yes. And they said, BAC? Is that even possible? They couldn't believe it. They were like, Brikama Area Council is able to pay school fees? And we said, yes, we are paying school fees. And then when we give them checks, they're like, okay, let's see whether the check will bounce or it will be cleared. Unfortunately, all the checks were cleared. And so we went to college. We also found that the registrar at the college was vouching for a lot of students. And as a result, he was not even able to receive any salary on a monthly basis because the college was taking all their debts from his salary. Because he vouched for these students to say, give them their certificates and then I'll pay it if they're not able to pay. So he's been doing it for so many of them, to a point that he was not able to go home with anything. And then we said, you know what, we will bail you out on this. So we try and pay that one. So that's what we, and then now we realize that next year, we cannot, because this year we budgeted 3 million, and next year we have to double that to 6 million. And then the medical treatment also, we are still facing a lot of challenges. I have a child that is waiting on me at the moment, and I'm waiting on the revenue from my collectors. And that child cannot even turn his head around because he has a bone somewhere there that pierces her whenever she tries to turn her head. And you look at the fee that she needs. She is trying to get a treatment in Senegal because it's not available in the Gambia, and it is very difficult. And the father who is responsible for everything can barely meet the sustenance of the family. So these are some of the challenges we are facing. I've seen in fact, what motivated me more into helping people in medical treatment is that I saw a child that was brought to me, and the child could barely talk. And then he was in a situation when you set your eyes on this boy, you would feel for him. And then he only needed about, I think it was about 12,000 or 11,000 to buy some medication, and his family couldn't afford it, he couldn't afford it, and his situation was deteriorating on a daily basis. So the councillor brought him and said if we could help him. I said, by all means, even if council cannot do it, I'll take it from my own salary and pay for this. And then lucky enough, we paid it. And then I think few months later, I asked him, I said, how is the boy doing? He said, he's playing football. And I just was thinking, this is a boy that could barely stand on that day. He could have died a few days later, and everybody will say it was his time, when his time was not yet. You know. But this is some of the challenges. And it is councils that need to do this thing. See, the thing that helped many councils in the West is that the central governments, they are policy makers. They make policies, they pass the money to the councils implement it. The central governments will say, we want 200 houses built in the country. And then they will give the money to the councils will do the contract, and those houses will be built by the council. They will say, we want the roads to be done. Councils will do it. Street lights, all these things. They give those monies to the councils to implement it for them, and they regulate and monitor the councils. That's how they achieve it. But in ours, you look at even education. Education, mostly you go to the councils, you apply to the councils. If you want student loans, you go to councils. At least in UK, that's how it is done. And on my way down around, I've realized that it is similar in many other countries, even in Denmark and other places. The problem we have with ours is central government is the policy maker, and they're also the implementers. They just pass the council and do whatever they want to do. And then we are like, hold on here, what about us? They said, no, we have no money for you. You go and collect the little money. But look at the little money we collect. We cannot even get $1 billion is in the region, but central government, when they collect, they go with 10 billion or 20 billion from our region alone. And they don't give us anything back. And the money they give us is what we spend on our people. You see the challenge we have. That's why we need to change the government, so we can achieve change in so many ways. Because all our local government laws need to be changed, so that our local governments become a lot more development oriented and able to register a lot of development in our regions. And then they become implementers of many of the policies of the central government. But at the moment, that is not happening. So you think about the black sand mining that is happening in Sanyang. How much is central government getting in a year? Billions and billions. But how much money are they giving us back for that place? Not much, not enough. So and then you have so many other industries that are in our region. So many other things are happening in the region where central government is making money, loads of money, but they are not returning anything back to the people of those regions. So these are some of the challenges we face, you see. Okay, so I think that addresses all the questions, but if there is any other question, I'm more than happy to take them up. Carry on. Yes. Huh? Address, okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's true. Tesoro, yes. 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 Can name one. Yes, yes, yes. 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 Definitely. Okay. Abarakabaka, that's a good question. New question, Dodi. Okay. So, yemin photo kumata bagala street naming nga plan no, and it is still within our plans. Pura that this year markeno, maybe next year mbadadela. What we want to do is we want to create a little budget, me alonko every area, just to be able to motivate them. Ye nkafo sila kulio. So sila o sila nemo lafta katola nga fennindi la maybe a jalo haya oto ye silo nyun kulle nga bodo loje nga fo nyen silo mu Lamin Manjang Road let. So bala ni ko mole Lamin Manjang Road in Busumbala London or Busumbala Tinto de Vavale nga jelon. Yes, so you can have a lot of Lamin Manjang roads, but this one is specific to Busumbala, Nema Tintindo, Nema Wasulunkunda or something like that. You see what I mean? The same thing Nida Reko Birkama, Jida, Babanjai, or Birkama, Jida, Forest, or something. So different names. So we want to love out that Sila Jamal Bijangaman and order in Nabetal for almost 2-3 years, Janu Wakaba. You see, but at least Nim Bodo Lodaje, it will help. But the street addressing Numo Sodora, imagine the second point here, idea Mendi. It's a very good idea. We were not thinking along that line, but we learned something from that as well. Well, Nyintaka ka Fenko di ka reminder send. Where is very important. But in the street name in Keta, address all London drum. I say Mari Fenko notify no as a notice key and all a conim ila Fenko. Na wala na ning assessment of minubake email or tale, mobile and everything. But the other thing we were thinking of is we're thinking of creating something on our website where people can be able to pay on the website. But we are also trying to get in touch with money transfer companies. You know, like Baluo, Yae, and all of them, so that people can be able to pay. Because you can pay your Navek through those ones.
Yeah.
You can Navek journal, you can buy Africell, you can do. So we also want them to be able to, people to be able to pay for their land rates. You don't need to send the money to family. Coming in for Gambia, corruption mandang official damage. That's all bail. I would like bail today. So ikaki modo jikita wala baka fo anem problem do le selata nyoka mutum o sembo wartati so mfananga dunno wot ajel. So that is Bariya Ming Fenketeng is a good suggestion. I got an idea from there. So hanna tara wo data bembul ninga data, so you can send an email to everybody and say Allah Fenko, you can do a group email, general email kafo mole ko Allah rate jowa to sita. Yeah, but nim mole ajo saying that then you need a separate email to confirm receipt. Because no one then go back general killer dolba receipt or so like and them already is already said I've paid. Yes.
Whoever paid
paid.
Reply or I have paid. That's proof of my receipt.
Okay.
And then those who haven't paid, then they will be able to pay it.
That's
how you send a general email.
Yeah.
You send it to everybody and alert
Yeah.
So those who have paid,
They will come
back
and they will
say,
respond.
I've paid,
Yes.
this is my receipt.
Very good.
And those who haven't paid, that will give them a time for them to pay, and you give them a time frame, like
To pay.
every financial year, before maybe 3-4 months before the financial year, you send that general alert.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So that's another important point, and that is to send general email and wait for the people to respond, and then if those who paid will obviously respond to say that I've already paid, and then hopefully you will omit those ones in the general list, and then send it to those that have not responded. But he made a very good point. I'll point him better about it. So but ning alat ka soro ke reminder ning ke